Check, check, check. Either I can cut it out.
You should. You have to.
Hey everyone, this is Sean Smith and welcome back. This is video number 2. Today we're going to be talking about sales and recruiting. I don't know if you know this, but this is kind of important, right? I mean, your whole business is basically going to be determined by how well you can sell and recruit. And I know it's one of the biggest It's one of the biggest pain points, not point paints. It's one of the biggest pain points for so many people. It's where so many people get frustrated and start to struggle. But before we get into the content, I just want to say thank you to all of you who've posted comments and asked questions. Continue to do that on this page. Please continue to share with other consultants that you know could really use this material. And I also want to tell you that this video is going to be very difficult for me to do because this sales and recruiting is like 50 hours worth of stuff that we can talk about. And in the coaching program that I'm going to invite you to next week, we're going to do a mastermind program and we're going to go all the way to the end of the seminar year, and we're going to go so much deeper into sales and recruiting. And my guess is, we'll probably spend 5 hours plus on this stuff at a much, much deeper level. But I'm going to give you as much as I can in a relatively short video. We'll see how long this takes by the time it's all said and done. But let's talk about sales. I know you get tons of training on selling and recruiting. And so some of this might be, things you've heard before. Hopefully some of it is from a different perspective, or maybe it's just a reminder for you to keep it simple. One of the things that I think happens is people are focused on a magic bullet. They're focused on that magic thing that they can say in order to get people to buy, in order to get people to join. And I just, if it's out there, I certainly haven't found it yet, and I've been searching for a long, long time. Selling and recruiting, first of all, recruiting is selling. You're just selling a business opportunity instead of products. And there are some differences in it, but between the two. But for the majority of what we're going to talk about, these concepts are going to apply to both. They're going to apply to selling your products. They're going to apply to selling the business opportunity. There's a few distinctions that I'm going to make towards the end. But it's, you got to keep it simple. You got to do the foundational things that work. Now, here's what I find is that people are looking for what to do or what to say. This is one of the biggest sticking points for most people is they don't know what to do and they don't know what to say, or they put too much emphasis on what to say and what to do. They did a study of communication. Many of you might have heard this before, that only 7% of communication even is determined by the words that you say anyway. 93% of all communication is by nonverbal. It's your body language, it's the tonality that you have, it's the energy that you give off. So what you say doesn't even matter all that much anyway. And I think a lot of people are focused on what to do. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop focusing so much energy on what to do and what to say. Now, are there some things in those two arenas? Absolutely. I'm not saying it's unimportant, but it's not the most important. Here's the most important piece, and this is what very few people are focusing on. It's not what to do or what to say, it's how to be. It's how do you show up? What kind of energy are you giving off? What kind of energy are you showing up? Like, are you showing up to sell? Are you showing up to serve? Are you showing up with a win-loss mentality? It's how comfortable are you in your own skin? How much belief do you have in the products and the company? It's how do you show up that's more important than anything that you do and say. So I want the majority of this is on how to be. It's the mindset that you've got to show up with and the internal beliefs that you have to have about selling in general that's going to help you. It's going to make much bigger differences in your results than any of the doing or saying that you could try to figure out, or that you could try to learn in sales scripts and so forth. Again, that stuff is not unimportant. It's just not the most important by far. This is the most important. And I've already mentioned it once, and I'm sure I'll say it, I don't know, at least 10 times throughout the course of this video, if not more, that sales equals service. You are here to serve people. If you're not here to serve people, with the products that you sell and the opportunity that you offer, you won't do very well, because this is a people business. This isn't a skincare business. It's a people business, and you're here to help. You're here to empower women. You're here to enrich women's lives, like the company itself says. And as long as you show up with a service mentality, you'll be fine. Now, I know logically you understand that. I hear people talk about that all the time. But internally, most people truly don't show up to serve. They show up to get. They show up to take. They show up to, get a booking. They show up to win a contest. They show up to, to get a certain position in the company or to make money. And unconsciously, if that's the way that you're showing up, it will show there will be an incongruence. There's going to be some conflict there. Your energy is not going to be pure service. So if I could give you one piece that's going to increase your results, it's that. Everything else will take care of itself. If you truly show up in a space of service, how can I help people? You'll be fine. Now, again, there's so many things we can talk about with sales. What I've identified is 7 of the biggest sales nuggets, and these are all mental stuff. They're intangibles that will help you increase your results, obviously increase your conversions, increase your income, and hopefully help you have more fun in your business, right? First of all, and this might not need to be said to some of you, but I hear some people saying, Mary Kay is not really about sales. I hear some people actually training that if somebody asks you, do they have to sell anything, tell them no. And this is not a Mary Kay problem. We hear that throughout the entire direct sales industry. And there's some people that just, basically adopt the position that direct sales is not about selling. It's about sharing, or it's about offering, or whatever. Here's my advice to you. I want you to embrace the fact that you are in sales. Right? I mean, people are giving you money and you're giving them something. Or they're signing up to join an opportunity which involves money. If there's a transaction that takes place, that's called sales. And the reason I'm a big believer in this, and I know this is kind of controversial for some people, but the reason I'm a big believer in this is I don't want you to run from the fact that you're in sales because you own a business. There is no business out there that doesn't involve the selling of something. If it is, if there is a business that doesn't involve selling, it's a scam. It's illegal. So I would rather you own the fact that you are in sales, because that's going to be a question that a lot of people have. Am I in sales? And if you tell them this isn't sales, my experience is you will be incongruent, and you'll probably push certain people away that don't have any problem with this being sales. They just want to know, like, what's expected of them and what are we selling here and so forth. So I've just seen that this is a really big sticking point for a lot of people. And I don't want you to try to pretend that you're not in sales. I would rather you just fully embrace, absolutely we're in sales. Not only is Mary Kay sales, everything is sales. Relationships are sales, right? I mean, like every conversation you're in, there's some selling going on. You're selling your opinion, or you're selling rules or something like that. Like everything in life is sales. So I would rather you embrace that than try to run from the fact that you're in sales. So maybe this doesn't need to be said for you, but for a lot of people, this is a huge piece. And if you don't embrace this, then none of the techniques even matter. Number 2, actually I already said this, but it's so important that I want you to always, always, always focus on this. I want you to always be serving. Always be serving others with every interaction, with everything that you put out, meaning like every card you send out, every pamphlet you send out, every facial box, every warm chatter conversation you get into, everything in your business, every piece of communication is, how can I serve other people? Is this serving or is it getting? And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So always be serving. Number 3, here's one of the ways that you can serve. And actually, it's the only way that you can serve people is if you're curious about them. So I want you to listen with curiosity. I think too many people think that selling is about telling people things. It's about being smart. It's about being impressive. It's about knowing the answers to all the questions. The best salespeople are not the ones with the best answers. They're not the ones with the best, the best way to overcome objections. The best salespeople are the ones with the best questions. If you can ask really good questions, you'll take your customers to places that they've maybe never been before, especially in a recruiting situation. But even with you just selling the products, if you can ask better questions and if you're truly, genuinely curious about them and you show up to serve them, sales is going to be easy, all right? So listen with curiosity and do more listening than telling. And I know, you've probably heard like we have 2 ears and one mouth on purpose, like use them accordingly, proportionally, right? So just listen with curiosity as much as you can. Number 4, this is such a huge piece. Oh God, this is so big. There's so much energy around like overcoming objections and trying to get people to say yes and trying to close the deal. But here's my experience. In business, you will have more no's than you have yes. I certainly have a heck of a lot more no's in my business than I have yes. And I don't know any business, any religion, any product, anything. I don't know anything on the planet that actually gets more yeses than no's. So if you're going to get more yeses, or if you're going to get more no's than yeses, we've got to erase any of the negative energy that you have on the word no. I want you to embrace the word no. I want you to learn to love the word no. Especially from a recruiting standpoint. Do you know how much time you get saved when somebody tells you no instead of dragging you, through the mud or telling you, I don't know, maybe, get back to me or whatever? There's a lot of people, and maybe you've already experienced this depending on your level of the company, and how much experience you've had with recruits especially. There's a lot of people that have team members, either currently or past team members, that they wish would have just said no, because they would have just saved so much time and so much energy. So if somebody says no, if that's where they're at in their life right now, embrace that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with the word no. If somebody's not interested, then they're not interested. I don't suggest you make it a point to run your business as a mind-changing operation. Right? If your goal is to go out there and change minds, if your goal is to change yeses into no's, this is going to be a struggle. And the people that you have to change yeses into no's quite often become huge, huge headaches. Now, I'm not saying across the board. Definitely there are stories out there of people who didn't want to join, and eventually they got talked into it or joined a few months later or whatever. So I'm not saying that this is always the case, but more often than not, what I've found is that people spend too much time trying to turn no's into yeses, and they burn out. And so they end up quitting, or they end up getting really, really frustrated. I would rather you just embrace the word no. Right? Now, there are ways to tell if somebody's really giving you a fake no or if they're giving you a real no. Right? Now, again, this is a much deeper training. I'm sure we'll go into that in the coaching program. I don't have, time. I didn't even prepare for that on this video, so we're not going to go into that. But, there are ways. If you see somebody on the fence and you get a sense that this is just like a maybe no, if this is a fake no, then you can push through some of those things. But what I've found is that most people aren't okay with the word no. They try to turn them into yeses, and that's why their business goes so slow. And the people that they do talk into the business, they have to, they have to incubate them, right? And this is one of the reasons why most people in direct sales in general, but it happens in Mary Kay for sure, create adult daycare centers where you just got to take care of everybody. And part of the reason is because you talked them into doing this, right? I just don't believe in talking people into building a business, especially when it's going to require their effort once they say yes. If you have to talk them in, you'll probably have to talk them into inventory. You'll probably have to talk them into going to trainings. You'll probably have to talk them into every step of the way, and that's a lot of energy on your part. Now, that's just if you want to create a business with independent women. If your mission in this business, if you see this business as a platform to build one of those adult daycare centers, or if you really love changing people's minds, and if that's really what you're out to do, that's fine. But you can't have it both ways. You can't make your mission changing no's into yeses and have a business of independent women at the same time. So my philosophy, and again, it's a little controversial, but my philosophy is just deal with the no's, right? Give them as much as you possibly can during the course of the interaction. And most people that are right for the opportunity, most people who are going to say yes to your product, like you've handled the no's or you've handled the objections during the conversation. And so if they get all the way through the conversation and then they say no, the way I teach sales and the way I do sales and recruiting, then this is probably a no. And I just don't, I'm just not a big fan of chasing the no's. All right, number 5, be willing to poke the pain. This is a big sore spot for a lot of people, but you got to understand that some people need to touch a little bit of pain, especially from a recruiting standpoint, before they take an action, before they decide, yeah, I'm going to build this business. They got to realize that their life is not working. They got to realize that the plans they have for themselves, financial plans or freedom plans or whatever, are not being met, and the road that they're on is not going to get them there. And so you have to be willing to ask some of those questions to see if there's some irritation, to see if there's some pain. I'm not saying you make people feel bad, and you don't have the ability to put pain into somebody's body. But if somebody's really not happy with their lives, one of the best things you can do sometimes is to help them see that. If they're not paying attention to it or they're trying to sweep that under the rug, they need to know what they're creating in their life, and they need to expose some of that pain sometimes in order for them to say, you know what, enough is enough. And we've heard expressions like, once the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change, we'll change. Well, sometimes we need to let people know or help guide them to realize that the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change. So you have to be willing to do this. You can do it without being confrontational. It doesn't have to turn into a debate. You're not going to ruin any friendships when you do it properly, but you do have to be willing for some people to go there. Now, not everybody needs to have their pain touched, but some people absolutely do. If somebody wouldn't have poked my pain, I would have never gotten into, my direct sales business. I would have never been where I am now, because everything, fell from there. Everything fell in place from there, and I had these breakthroughs, and I started training and speaking, and like everything I have in my life is because I got into this business. And if somebody didn't help me realize that I truly wasn't happy with my life and I wanted more than what I currently had, I would have never made that leap. So you have to be willing to do it, and you can do it with rapport. Actually, once you have rapport, you can do anything and virtually say anything to people because they know you're here to serve. And you can poke people's pain with love and with service if you ask the right questions, if you're curious, okay? Number 6, to increase sales, you've got to increase value. A lot of people, now this is really important with products, a lot of people are trying to compete on price. A lot of people are trying to compete with convenience. A lot of people are trying to compete by tearing down the other products or whatever. The best way for you to sell, the best way for you to create the desire in other people, people want things that are valuable. So the best way for you to increase your results is simply increase the value. Increase the value of the product. They don't need to know about all the features, and I don't mean to sound insensitive, but most people, some people do care about the fact that, you don't test on animals and some of these other things of how it's packaged and stuff like that, but most people don't. That is important, but it's not the most important. What's most important is what's valuable to them. And remember, the customer or the prospect creates the value, not you, not your business, not your product. It's the customer that creates the value. Now, how do you find what they value? You ask questions and you listen with curiosity. And whatever it is that they truly want in their life is valuable to them, and you can show them how your products or how this business, if they join Mary Kay, is going to be valuable to them. Because when you increase the value, you increase people's willingness to act, you increase people's willingness to pay, you increase people's willingness to commit. People will commit to things that are more valuable. People usually won't commit or follow through with things that are not valuable. And so unconsciously and unintentionally, I think a lot of you are decreasing the value of the business. You're decreasing the value of the products by focusing on the price. You know, you can get in with only $100. The more that you talk about opening this business for only $100, the more you decrease its value. Generally. Not all the time, but generally. So I want you to be really careful. I would much rather you increase the value by poking their pain, listening with curiosity, showing up to serve, than competing on price and trying to make it sound like this is really easy for them to get in and do, and you can, you know, become a director in just a few hours a week and stuff like that. Like, I just want you to increase the value. People want to go after things that they value in life. So that's what I want to be the focal point of your conversations. Number 7, the last sales nugget here is, I know I'm going to be a little totally controversial on this one, because we hear in sales all the time that sales is a blank, but I'm here to tell you it's not. It is not a numbers game. Now, I know that probably goes against most of what you've always been taught, and it goes against pretty much everything that I've always been taught. And let me also say, technically, yes, it's true. It's a numbers game in the sense that the more numbers you see, the more faces you see, the more faces you put the product on, the more interviews you do, the more facials you do, the more classes you do, the more facial boxes you have out, the more women you talk to, the better your results are going to be. However, here's my point of distinction here. Most people, and this is why I put it in quotes, most people are telling themselves it's just a numbers game. I have to go through numbers. I have to increase my numbers. And I want you to make sure that when you think of this as a numbers game, you don't take the human element out of it. This is a human game. This is a connection game. This is a service game. So technically, logically, is it a numbers game? Yes, but I don't want you to plug into that logical programming and remove your heart in the process. Because for a lot of people, a lot of the people that I coach, when they think of this as a numbers game, they take their heart out of it. They take the service out of it. They just think this is just a factory. I got to put more women in the factory. The more women in the factory that I put in, you know, the more women I put through the factory, the more they're, you know, the positive results are going to spit out on the other end. And that takes your biggest asset away from you. Your biggest asset is absolutely not your logic. It's not your brain. Your biggest asset is your heart and your connection. And so the connotation of this phrase, numbers game, for most people removes the most important piece of selling, the most important piece of recruiting, which is maintaining the connection with people. So is it technically true? Yes, but I hate the connotation of the phrase. This is a connection game. I would rather you say something like, the more people I connect with, the more results, you know, the better the results I'm going to get. The more people I'm going to recruit onto my team. The more faces that I see, the more products, the more people I serve. So there's nothing wrong with the idea of more. But I just don't like the disconnect in the connotation of it being a numbers game, okay? So I want you to really catch yourself. All right. A few more things I just want to touch on here. Now again, this falls under the service principle. Selling is serving, it's not taking. And when you understand that you're here to serve people, what I want you to remember is that selling and recruiting goes in here too. Sales and recruiting is not something that you do to people. And it's not something that you do at people, right? When you think of sales as taking, when you think of sales as getting, it feels like selling is something you do to people. You know, closing people first of all, closing has such a negative connotation. I hate the idea of closing people, right? I like the idea of opening relationships, opening client relationships or team member relationships. I don't like the idea of closing. But selling and recruiting is not something that you do to people. It's something that you do for people. If you have a belief that this business can change lives, then don't you have an obligation to offer that to people? And isn't it for their benefit? If you believe that your products will benefit people, if you believe that it makes them feel better, if you believe that it can raise their self-esteem, if you believe that it can make them happier, and every one of you that's watching this video probably has a story like that. I tested this product, or because of this company, these are the positive results that have happened in my life. If you have those kinds of experiences for the product and the service and the business, then don't you have an obligation to offer it to people to better their lives? You're offering something for them to have a better life, to have a better outcome, to increase their happiness. This is not something that you do to them. It shouldn't be abrasive. It should be an offering of service that you do for people. So always remember that. You're warm chattering for women to maybe get out, to maybe wake up out of their trance of disempowerment. I know a lot of people are out there just totally disempowered, and they're just like sleepwalking through life. Don't you have an obligation to offer them a chance to wake up? That's something that you do for them, for their benefit. Now, if you don't focus on this, and if you don't focus on service, then the opposite of that will create virtually all of your fears. My experience is that all fears, when it comes to selling and recruiting especially, are a result of focusing on what I call personal gain. If you're there to get a name and number, you're focused on personal gain. If you're there to get a booking, you're focused on personal gain. If you're there to achieve a challenge, to win a challenge, you're focused on personal gain. If you're there to make money, for sure, you're focused on personal gain. If you're there to get anything, to receive anything, to get recognition, you're focusing on personal gain. Now, you might not think that logically, but at a deeper level, you can't argue with that. If you're there to win a contest, you're there to get. You're there to get something. Now some of you might argue, no, but I'm here so that I can help people go through a before and after modeling phase or something like that. But the bottom line is, if you're focused on winning, if you're focused on getting numbers, money, bookings, anything, you're focused on personal gain. Here's my point. Whenever you're focused on personal gain, that's where all of your fears live. All of your fears and limiting beliefs of I'm not good enough, or I don't know how to sell, or what if this person turns out to be that? All of your fears live in your head. And your head gets engaged when you're focused on getting stuff, when you're focused on getting tangible success. Your head gets engaged, and that's where all your fears are. But when you're focused on serving people, when you're focused on doing things for people, your fears won't show up. I can virtually guarantee you that none of you watching this video, if this is true for one of you, then please email me, because you'll be the first one I've ever heard of. But I can basically guarantee you that none of you watching this video has ever had a limiting belief or a fear around helping somebody. We don't have those. We have limiting beliefs and fears around failing. But failing is attached to personal gain. We have fears around rejection. Rejection is attached to personal gain. We have fears around judgment and opinions. Those are attached to personal gain. You don't have a fear of serving. You don't have a fear of helping. You don't have a fear of offering something that's going to benefit people. So the more that you plug into personal gain, the more that all of your fears will probably not get engaged. Oh, this is so simple, and I'm telling you, this is the difference that will make all the difference in your selling and recruiting, is how to be. It's how to come from that place of service. All right, a couple more things here. From a language perspective, one of the ways that you can really focus on serving people, not focusing on personal gain, is to take yourself out of the offer. What I mean by that is, when you talk to people, don't say, I have a business. Why don't you take a look at my business? Or why don't you take a look at my products? The more that you have ownership over your offer, the more that you talk about your products, your business, your service, your opportunity, and you own it with your language, when people say no, and more of them are going to say no than yes, it'll be easier for you to feel rejected, right? But if you take yourself out of the offer, and if you just make neutral offers, there's a business opportunity and people are either interested or they're not. There's a product and they either want it or they don't. You're not on the table to be rejected. It's so much easier for you to have, to stay healthily, if that's a word, to be detached in a healthy manner, all right? All right, one more thing on sales. And, hopefully you've heard this, because this is one of the key tenets of sales. And that is, benefits sell, features tell. I don't want you to focus on the features of your business, like any of the details are features. I want you to focus on the benefits. And that goes back to, this ties into a lot of the things that I was already saying. This goes back to building value, listening with curiosity, finding out what people want. You want to talk about how this business, how the product's going to benefit them. And that's what sells. It creates the value, creates the wanting, and so forth. Now, most of the things we've been talking about apply to both sales and recruiting, but there are a few things that I want to mention that are distinct recruiting concepts. And the first one is, when you're in a recruiting situation, when you're in an interview situation, the first thing you've got to do, it's not sell them on how good of a leader you are or how good of a company Mary Kay is or how awesome the products are. The first thing you've got to do is sell them their own dreams. If somebody has not decided to change their life, what does it matter that you're offering a tool that can change their life, right? You got to establish the fact that they want something more in their life. Because if they don't want anything more in their life, how relevant is Mary Kay to them? It's not. It doesn't matter. Mary Kay doesn't matter as a business opportunity unless somebody has decided, I want more out of my life. So the first thing you've got to do is help get them tapped into their own dreams. What is it they want out of life? And if they're not happy with where they are and they're not happy with where this road that they're now traveling is going to end up, now Mary Kay becomes relevant in the conversation, right? But unless they've decided that they want more out of their life, unless they re-buy their dreams, it's going to be very difficult for you to try to sell them a dream building opportunity. Who cares about a dream building opportunity if they don't want to build their dreams? Does that make sense? Hopefully it's making sense. And if not, obviously post a comment or a question. But this is the most important piece. Now here's the cool thing. They've already bought their dreams. This is more just reminding them. It's a lot easier to sell somebody their dreams and then offer them a tool that can help them get their dreams than to sell them an opportunity. And then hopefully some point along the way, get them to change their mind and go after their dreams, right? So sell them their dreams first. All right, next piece, second to last piece, the penultimate. I learned that word means second to last. Worst answer you can have from a recruiting standpoint is, I don't know. Let me think about it. Let me get back to you. That's poison, okay? Yes is great. No is great. I don't know, not great. So you want people to make a choice. You want people to commit. You want them on one side of the fence or the other. You don't want them dancing on the fence because you are going to hold on to them energetically if they're on the fence. And I don't want you to hold on to people energetically. I know people in this business who literally have people that have been telling them, I don't know, maybe, catch back, or catch up with me later for like years. And energetically, they're still attached to this person because this person hasn't said no. So first of all, if they haven't said yes, they've said no, right? I would much rather you detach yourself energetically from those people and help them get to a yes or a no. Now, how do you do that? Everything I've been talking to you about. Create more value, poke the pain, like all this stuff will help people make a decision. And there's nothing wrong with you just outwardly saying, listen, whatever you say is fine, but it would help me to know, like, if you're in or out. Now, you might not use those exact words. They might sound a little abrasive, but you can tell them, transparently, what I'm looking for is a yes or a no. And they'll usually give you a yes or a no. The last thing, oh, this is good. One of my favorite analogies and concepts in recruiting. As a recruiter, your job is just to sort people. Your job is not to change minds. Your job is to sort people. I want you to imagine that you've been given a deck of playing cards, right? And imagine I give you this deck of playing cards and I say, here's the rules of the game are this. Your job is to find the aces. And if you can find the 4 aces inside of 5 seconds, like, you win $1 million or, it avoids something bad happening. Like, imagine if the game was, if you don't find these aces in 5 seconds, like, you get a toe cut off, or you lose something that's really valuable to you. How would you go after the aces? Here's what you wouldn't do. okay? You wouldn't take the first card, which in this case is a jack, and you wouldn't spend your 5 seconds going, oh, you're a jack, but you could really be an ace. If you just tried harder, you're so close. You just got to get through the Q and the K and you'll be an A. You could be so good at this if you just wanted to be an ace. But how many people recruit that way? How many people spend all their time and energy trying to turn a jack into an ace? Listen, this thing is a jack, and I don't care what you do to it, it will be a jack. Now, does it have the power to turn itself into an ace? Yeah, but you don't. Certainly not by yelling at it or debating with it or trying to overcome its objections. It's a jack. And if you spent your energy trying to turn this jack to an ace, you would lose the bet. But if you only had 5 seconds, you'd probably do something like this. As soon as they say go, you would just fly through this deck and you wouldn't be trying to change any cards. You would just be looking for the aces and you would find them. Here, I win. That's the mentality that you need to have as a recruiter. It is much easier to find people who are already like foaming at the mouth for an opportunity to change their life and just enter the conversation they're already having in their head than it is to try to change people and get them excited about a business. Try to change people who are talking about the economy and talking about poverty and focused on everything negative and try to turn them into positive thinkers. That's really difficult. Now, if that's what, if that's how you get your kicks, then go for it. But if you want to build a business, I would suggest you go for the aces. You just sort through them. Don't try to change the other 48 cards into aces. Find the aces. They're out there. And it's much easier to take the aces and tell them where to go to get what it is they already want than it is to try to change people's minds. So, man, this video looks like it's about 35 minutes long, and I feel like it was just rushed because there's so much more that we can talk about, and we can take a lot of these concepts and just go much deeper with them. And like I said, we'll do that in the coaching program that I hope you if it serves you, I hope you join us in. For now, that's it for video 2. We'll come to you very soon with video number 3. If you have any questions, comments, you disagree with anything, whatever, post them on this page, and I'll do my best to answer them as often or as soon and as many as I can. And please remember, if you have anybody that needs this information, please forward this on to them, share it on Facebook and what have you. So thanks for your interaction. I'll talk to you real soon. Come here.
Is it done?
Yeah, come here. You want to say hi?
Dude.
Hi.
Was that on?
Can you come here?
That was
Come here, say hi.
No, it's
Come here, say
recording.
hi.
That is still recording.
Come here, come here.
Was it recording?
Come here, come here.
That was recording.
Come here. Hi, hi.
That was it recording.